All right, welcome to part two. This one is a short one. In this section, I just want to talk about different perspectives on transmedia, basically different ways of thinking about transmedia. Because invariably, like in the 10 years that I've been talking about transmedia in classes, I feel like every single semester, or if even outside of the classroom, if I talk about this with people in my regular life, I feel like the thing that I hear is always, isn't that just media now? Like, okay, it's multiple stories, it's like universes. Audience can sort of participate and like pretend to be the characters or like guide the story. Um, there's different medium and platforms involved. Isn't that just like how media exists in today's world? So isn't that just media now? I hear that all the time from everybody I talk to about transmedia, basically ever. And I think the answer is like kind of, yeah, like that's not necessarily a wrong way of thinking or inaccurate. It might actually just be more helpful rather than to say, isn't everything transmedia now? To kind of talk about two different ways of looking at transmedia. And one way is conceptual. Conceptual just means, we're talking about what the concept means. So this is a way of thinking about transmedia where we just kind of ask, like, what is transmedia like? Like, what's the idea behind it? And if we think about media, most media today is transmedia like. So this is probably accurate if we think about transmedia in this way, right? Nearly all media we consume today has some aspect of transmedia. There's some element of the concept of transmedia and the reason it exists that is present in our media. Connections are largely made by what we consume. We consume a lot of digital media today, and as a result, anyone telling a story probably is going to see that story in all these different areas of consumption, in social media, on YouTube. Handing a story to an audience, the audience just kind of naturally is going to want to share it online today. If a friend of yours posts a video on Instagram about a franchise they like, about WandaVision, and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting, you might start watching clips from it on YouTube or criticism of it or reviews of it on YouTube. You might start reacting in other places. It's not necessarily that the people who made WandaVision thought, oh, this needs to be a transmedia story. They just made a TV show, and of course it gets transmediaized because the audience consumes it in that way, because tools for consuming it in that way are so ubiquitous and society is so interested in behaving in this way. So conceptual transmedia is just, is something transmedia like? Does it have elements of transmedia? Operational transmedia, a way of thinking about transmedia is operational. Operational definitions tell us how to measure something or what to look for to see if it fits an exact definition. So conceptual is sort of like, I think about like organic, like, oh, does this look like transmedia? Yeah, kind of. Versus, was this supposed to be transmedia? If we make a list of things transmedia needs and we check every single, we check off what this thing has, does it have enough things checked off? That's operational. So I think about operational transmedia as sort of being transmedia on purpose. Transmedia where the concept of it being transmedia is baked into the design. It's on purpose. When the story was made, the people who made it decided it would be transmedia of some kind. And so you tend to see in this context like story worlds that are just like on purpose harnessing how we consume media. They're not just putting a story out there and the world is kind of being transmedia about it. It was actually designed to be released as transmedia, and the people who made it thought really hard about how the audience would interact with it and how they wanted the audience to use the story and retell the story. And so in transmedia that's operational, where it's kind of on purpose, the people who made it are generating the content based on how they want users to use it. They're not just going, okay, here's a TV show, and people are turning the TV show into this transmedia-like experience because they're just naturally sharing it across different media and platforms. The creators want the audience to do that, and they decide how they, ways they're going to try to get the audience to do it in certain ways. They're going to decide, hey, we think this would be really great for Twitter. We're going to try to get people retell these stories and share about it on Twitter as opposed to other ways. And so the creator of transmedia on purpose, if you will, they're really thinking about how to leverage the digital networks and platforms. So conceptual transmedia, you can think about things that are transmedia-like, activities that people, the hive mind of the internet undertakes that kind of turns media into transmedia. Conceptual transmedia is media that has transmedia properties or qualities. Operational transmedia is transmedia that is transmedia on purpose. The people who made it wanted it to be used like transmedia. They weren't just going to see if the audience interacted with it that way. They decided they wanted it to be transmedia, and they decided some ways they wanted the audience to interact with it. So we can think about transmedia from these two contexts.